Quick before this video begins, I would like to put a massive trigger warning. In this video, I will be discussing some topics about sexual assault and R-word and drugs. So if you have a problem with that, please exit the video right now. This is your warning, and hope you like the video. Hello. So this is going to be a little bit of a different video. I recently came across a couple of books, and basically the entire books are just people sharing their real life experiences with things, and I thought it was really, really interesting. I thought it was really a really cool concept of just, people just sharing their experiences with certain things. So I wanted to make a series of just reading these stories, and they're not too long, they're pretty fast. I mean, they're like 5 or 6 paragraphs, they're not anything huge, but I just wanted to get into this, you know what I'm saying? I feel like some of these stories deserve more recognition. It's a good learning experience, that's how humans learn, is mistakes, and I feel like learning from other people's mistakes or experiences in life is fucking huge. So let's just get right into it. So our first story here is from Alyssa. All right. From my very first breath I took on earth, God has always been a huge part of my life. I grew up in a church where I learned who God is and why we choose to honor Him and worship Him daily. Just like topics learned in school, if there's any application of the teachings to your daily life, or if there isn't any applications to the teaching in your daily life, you'll lose the connection and knowledge you've been taught. This is how my self-worth began to fade to dust. In other words, how I allowed others' opinions of me to blur the value God had placed upon me in my life. When I went into high school, I became fascinated with a boy a year older than me. At the beginning, it was sweet and gentle connection. He was the first boy I truly thought would treasure me, but he proved me wrong. It was a roller coaster of lies, betrayal, and mistreatment. One second he made me feel as though I was priceless, and the next he made me feel as though I was just another girl to check off his list. Confusion suffocated my mind on how it felt, as if I was never enough to satisfy him. That was my problem. My mission in life at that time was to satisfy him rather than satisfying God. I chose to spend hours upon hours daily proving to this guy that I was enough. Oh, I skipped a page. Oops. One day I decided I could no longer live this life feeling such a void of love, so I cut off all connection to this guy. Was it absolutely painful? Yes. However, I knew that I needed to just trust in God. He would heal my broken heart and build back up my confidence in the beautiful purpose He has for me in life. I repented for allowing a man to take away God's position of priority in my life, and asked for forgiveness for all the sins I committed during my blindness. I asked God to become the Lord of my life again, to which I would allow and trust Him to guide me through the rest of my life. From that point, I began down the process of finally maturing in my walk with God. I read His Word daily. I talked to Him from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning to the time I closed them to go to sleep. I listened to sermons every night, and I wanted to submerge myself in love and peace. If I could give advice about anything, it would be to remember that you are on a journey with God. There will be ups and downs, but don't focus too heavily on what you believe. Don't focus too heavily on what you should believe should be your next move. Allow God to guide you through the challenges, through heartbreaks, and through doubts. Watch Him transform every harsh storm into the most beautiful sunlight there ever was. And that's by Alyssa. After each story, I'm going to try to give my thoughts on it. Relationships are hard. I do feel like at some point you do have to, accept the fact that maybe it's not going to work out. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe like, maybe it shouldn't be. And I'm glad that she realized that. All right. First of all, before we go into anything other than this, I would like to put a trigger warning right now. Actually, I'll make it. I'll make it at the end. I'll make it in post production, so that way it like comes up at the beginning of the video. All right. Drinking, smoking, tripping, I was arrested. This was my turning point. Being the baby is not always good. I was born into a family of 9. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. We grew up knowing the guy that raised us as our dad. We constantly moved to different houses and we had to move every year or every other year. My mom was the one who worked and my, in quotations, dad stayed home, kept the house clean, and watched us. As time went on, we had moved to at least 5 different houses before I had turned 6. Around this time, it was when it happened the first time. I was playing in the family room and one of my brothers approached me and R-worded me. This ended up not being the only time he did this to me, but I was too scared to say anything to my parents. They were always busy. My mom worked her butt off and she walked on eggshells with my dad. When I was 8 years old, I would go with 2 of my brothers over to their girlfriends' houses. They were dating these sisters. Well, I ended up being R-worded by their dad. I went and told my mom. As it turned out, he had made my brother do worse to him. I went to counseling for this, but I still never said anything about my brother and what he did to me. Eventually, my dad's true side came out. He would let us know we weren't kids. When he was drunk, he would beat my mom. I had memories from when I was around 10 or 11 years old. My mom left my dad at his sister's house because he was drunk and acting stupid. I had fallen asleep in her bed. I woke up to my mom crying and my dad yelling at her. This led one of my brothers to confront him. Due to being R-worded by my brother, I slept with my parents until I was 11 years old. When my brother went to juvenile detention, I finally felt safe. When I was 11, I had stayed a night at a friend's house, my first time staying at a friend's house. Her brother R-worded me. She was taking a bath, and I was in her room when it happened. I felt sick afterwards and asked to go home. I never told anyone until my mom had my sister take me for a pregnancy test. Sure enough, I was pregnant. I was 11 years old, 4 months pregnant, and finally told the truth about what happened to me. I had to be homeschooled. Even though I was homeschooled, people found out I was pregnant. Unfortunately, I ended up having a stillborn a week before my due date. I didn't know it then, but now I know that it was all God's timing. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted to save those who are crushed in spirit. Psalms 38:18. They quoted a Bible verse, I guess. After I had lost my son, I went back to school and was bullied. Nobody knew what happened to me, and I didn't want to talk about it. This is when I started smoking cigarettes and pot to take the pain away. I had become this girl that was, in quotations, out there. At the age of 15, I found out I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. When I found out, I told her father. He didn't believe she was his, and he denied her. We ended up moving to another city. My daughter was born 2 days after Christmas. On the way to the hospital, we got in a bad car accident, and it almost claimed my daughter's life. As time went on, my mom helped with my daughter. I was still going out and partying. I was drinking, smoking, and even tripping on shrooms. I started dating a guy I had known since 4th grade and ended up pregnant with my middle daughter. I stayed in this relationship even though it was toxic. He constantly cheated on me, and we had done some hard drugs together. Eventually, that came to an end. In 2006, I was arrested for having pills on me. I thought these pills were making me happy. Around the time of the arrest, my now ex had got me smoking crack. I feel like getting arrested was the best thing to happen. I cleaned up and stopped smoking. I didn't use pills, but I was still smoking weed. My ex had gotten out of jail. I got back with him for the kids. That's what I told myself anyway. He eventually would cheat on me again, and we were living with his sister around the time, but he was gone all day. When he had gotten home, I was going to leave, but he did something to the car so that I wouldn't be able to leave. He ended up putting a knife to my throat that night. We ended up moving into our own place. He cheated on me for the last time, and he left me and the kids for some girl. I had to find a job that was closer and full-time. I ended up meeting my youngest daughter's father around this time. We would party together, and then he disappeared when I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know it then, but this was my turning point. My 2 oldest children went to church with their aunt, and I had my baby. I started going as well. I went for a good 6 months, but then stopped going. Around this time, I met my husband. We dated for a year, and then he moved in with me. We were struggling due to me working as a server, I picked up another job and we both picked up a paper route. We were on our way home from delivering the Sunday paper when we got into a car accident. He had fallen asleep at the wheel. He hit a mailbox post, which hit him in the face. The doctor said he was a miracle considering he broke all but 2 bones in his face. They also said they weren't sure if there would be brain damage and that he would be in the hospital for 6 months. Little did they know God was working on him. When he woke up from his coma 4 days after the accident, he had told me he went to heaven. The way he explained it was so breathtaking. 11 days after the accident, my husband was sent home. We weren't married then, but he did propose. We got married 2 years later. We started talking about going to church. I received a text from my sister-in-law asking if we wanted to go to church. She and the boys were being baptized. I went to church that Sunday and gave my life to Christ. I don't do drugs anymore. I have so much joy in my life. I want people to know when you feel like there is no hope and feel like giving up. I know what that feels like. I was almost to that point until I found God. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. Isaiah 41:10. And that story is by April. Holy shit, man. What a fucking story, man. That is crazy. She has lived a fucking life. That is insane, man. Alright, we'll read this last one. I don't want this to be too long. Obviously, I really am gonna make this a series, but yeah. My get out of jail free card. My understanding became distorted. I would go out and party and do whatever I wanted. I was stuck in a vicious lifestyle. I wanted all the benefits without the responsibility. Okay. I grew up in a church-going family. My parents loved the Lord and served Him faithfully my whole life. They even had their own church for a season. Because I grew up in the church, I knew the basics. I knew Jesus loved me enough to die for me for my sins, and He rose again, and with all the power in His hands. I knew that if I repented, I would be saved. If I sinned, I could ask for forgiveness and be forgiven. From a young age, I always clung to the revelation of Jesus as my Savior. If I messed up, I knew that He was right there to forgive me if I just asked. Somewhere down the line, my understanding of His saving grace became distorted. I would go out and party and do whatever I wanted to do. Then go home and just ask God to forgive me. My intentions were never going to change my behaviors. I would use God as a get out of jail free card. It was a vicious cycle of sin, sorry, repeat for many years. My relationship with God stayed shallow, aside from the feel good feelings I would get during praise and worship at church. It wasn't until an unhealthy relationship ended that I realized that I had never accepted Jesus as the Lord of my life. I wanted all the benefits of being saved without the responsibility of letting Jesus direct and control my life. That realization alone changed everything. I began to live differently. I still had struggles, and it took years, along with getting married and getting delivered from them, or to get them delivered. But I honestly say that the moment I stopped abusing God's grace is when I experienced Him like never before. It was then that my relationship with Him became real. Now I'm 5 years into marriage, have 2 amazing kids, and am serving in a loyal church. All the glory goes to God for being loving and patient enough to not give up on me. Oh, that's cool. Her husband's story is also in this book. That's kind of cool. Her name is Everlee, like Averlee. It's spelled Avelee. It's kind of a cool name. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. This is a really cool concept that I wanted to dive into. I just really like the concept of reading people's stories, and I really like talking to people and getting to know their experiences. So this is like a way for me to do that. And if you're watching this, I hope you also enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.